Well, welcome back to my office, everybody. And this lecture will begin to talk about what we'll call the emerging idea of America, as Americans begin the process of self definition in determining what is America, what it means to be an American. And we just have three representative documents: letters from an American farmer, then the Declaration, and then we'll finish with The American Crisis by Thomas Paine. So, taking a look at Letters from an American Farmer by de Crevecoeur. Quick little note, he was a Frenchman, became a naturalized citizen. And one thing that we can see regarding this idea of self-definition for what it means to be an American in Letter from an American Farmer, it's this idea of an agricultural nation. There's not much, of course, this early in American history, there's not much manufacturing. Quick side note, with the colonies would take the raw materials such as lumber, indigo, cotton, wool, and then they would ship the raw materials back to England, and then the English would process that and then send the finished goods back. So the colonists were, in essence linked in to Mother England. They had to purchase the finished products from England. And of course, they were taxed when they bought those products from England, and they were limited with their trade. So that's one thing that we see about this self-definition of America. America is an agricultural nation, a farming nation. And just one of the things that I really like about Letter from an American Farmer is how the author here is really quick to point out some of the differences between America and Europe. So this is from letter 1, the first letter, under introductory letter 8, where he's talking about society here in America. Here he might contemplate the very beginnings and outlines of human society, which can be traced nowhere now but in this part of the world. The rest of the world is, in some places, too full, in others half populated. Misguided religion, tyranny, and absurd laws everywhere depress and afflict mankind. Here we have in some measure regained the ancient dignity of our species. Our laws are simple and just. We are a race of cultivars. Our civilization is unrestrained, and therefore everything is prosperous and flourishing. So in referencing England, right, what does Crevecoeur say? Misguided religion, tyranny, absurd laws everywhere depress and afflict mankind. Right? So this idea of religion being misguided over in Europe, tyranny, Europe, absurd laws. What's the reflection? Depress and afflict mankind. But what's in America? Right? They've regained the ancient dignity of our species. The laws are simple and just. Right? So this idea here of not having things being oppressive upon people. Now, hopefully you caught an echo from the period overview just a little bit further in Letters from an American Farmer. In introductory letter 14, did you catch that? Tabula Rasa. Do you remember what tabula rasa is? That's Latin for blank slate. This is the belief in the Enlightenment that when people are born, we're in essence a blank slate. Our minds are a blank slate, and we learn through perception, through our senses. through empiricism, right? It seems to be held without any labor. Your mind is what we called at Yale College a tabula rasa, where spontaneous and strong impressions are delineated with facility. Yeah, hopefully you caught that. Now, a little bit further down in here, Crevecoeur's talking about some another characteristic, another kind of a simple, quiet comparison between America and then Europe. You will appear to him like one of our wild American plants, irregularly luxuriant in its various branches, which an European scholar may probably think ill-placed and useless. If our soil is not remarkable as yet for the excellence of its fruits, this exuberance is, however, a strong proof of fertility, which wants nothing but the progress knowledgeable acquired by time to amend and to correct. It is easier to retrench than it is to add. I do not mean to flatter you, neighbor James. Adulation would ill become my character. You may therefore believe what your pastor says. Were I in Europe, I should be tired and perpetually seeing espaliers, splashed hedges, and trees dwarfed into pygmies. So it's talking about how during this time, what the people do in their European gardens is that they would shape the hedges, right? They would trim back the trees to force them to grow a certain way that they wanted to. Do let Mr. F.P. see on paper a few American wild cherry trees, such as nature forms them here, in all her unconfined vigor, and all the amplitude of their extended limbs and spreading ramifications. Let him see that we are possessed with strong vegetative embryos. So talking about just looking at the foliage, it's not confined. There's not that restraint that they've put on the vegetation, and in essence it's becoming a metaphor for what it means to be an American. America is a place that's not restrained. It's meant to be a place of freedom, luxuriant growth, not restrained. So we're doing some kind of reading behind the text here to see what it means to be an American as these authors talk about and begin the process of self-definition for what it means to be an American. Now, skipping ahead, of course, can't sit down and read all of this together, but let's skip ahead to letter 3. Letter 3, under the heading, What is an American? And then, what is an American? Number 49 there. What a train of pleasing ideas this fair spectacles must suggest. It is a prospect which must inspire a good citizen with the most heartfelt pleasure. The difficulty consists in the manner of viewing so extensive a scene. He has arrived on a new continent. A modern society offers itself to his contemplation, different from what he had hitherto seen. So talking about when people come to America, the New World, it is not composed, as in Europe, of great lords who possess everything and a herd of people who have nothing. Here are no aristocratical families, no courts, no kings, no bishops, no ecclesiastical dominion, no invisible power giving to a few a very visible one, no great manufacturers employing thousands, no great refinements of luxury. Ooh, did you, hopefully y'all caught that when you're reading through on your own. Right here in America, there is not kings and nobles, right? If you remember during this time, right, in Europe, which, pretty much all the known world, it was monarchy. That's where the few own and have power over the many. And what we see here, Crevecoeur is saying, that's not what it is in America. America is different. We don't have invisible power giving to a few a very visible one. In other words, when you think about the idea of a monarchy, right, or ecclesiastical dominion, where does this power come from? Well, it's an invisible power, and we can argue that it's no power at all, because in order to be king, these kings, they didn't do anything, right? All they did, they were born and they had a last name, where a few have a power over the many just based upon birth. So what do we see in America? Self-definition here. What does it mean to be an American? It's not that. What is America about? It's about working. It's about just laws, right? It's not about oppression. It's about becoming what you make yourself to be. So we've hit the 10-minute mark here, so we'll pick up in the next lecture as we continue to look at the emerging idea of America.